Good morning and welcome to day 3 of exploring the Canadian Badlands. We're currently here in Riding on Stone Provincial Park, where yesterday we went and explored the Hoodoos, which was really cool. Today it's actually been raining quite a bit, but we are here all day luckily. So we're going to kind of wait for the rain to die down. It's stopped for a little bit, but there's more coming. So here's the plan. First, we're going to have breakfast as we wait for the rain to die down. And then we're going to go for a hike to the visitor center, which we actually saw yesterday, but it was closed, so we didn't go up to it. And while we're there, hopefully they have some sort of exhibits in a little museum, because I like museums. And we can learn a little bit more about the whole park and that, and maybe figure out what all those holes are and all the hoodoos, because I still need to figure that out. And second, there's one main thing I wanted to do today, and that is find cave paintings. So we're going to try and do that today. Alright, let's get started for the day. First we have breakfast. Today it's pancake sausages. Then I walk the dog so he doesn't poop on the floor. Alright, so update. It never actually rained. There's some dark clouds that are coming in right now. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but they're pretty dark. The weather says it's like a 40% chance of rain for the next couple hours. So we're going to take our chances. We're going to go for a little bit of a hike to the visitor center, and maybe there's some museums there. And maybe I can get some answers to my questions, such as, what are all these holes in the Badlands and the Hoodoos and that? I don't know what they are. Some sort of erosion feature, but they're just so bizarre. Anyway, I also need to find a new bird. If you watched yesterday, you'll know there was that one bird that was screaming in the Hoodoos. I don't know what that is. And then there's also that falcon that was flying around here last night. I still won't get that on camera. Anyway, let's go for a hike. Back at the Hoodoos. We made it to the visitor center. The storm is just hitting here. It's beginning to rain. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the heritage and the history here at Riding on Stone Provincial Park. First off, the most important thing is the park actually has 2 names: Riding on Stone and Áísínai'pi. Áísínai'pi? I don't know. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced that. So there's actually a sign up here. First, I want to admire. We're down to admire right now. First, the sign here talks about the biogeography of this region. So there's a range of species found here greater than most other regions on the prairies. There's influence from the Missouri River Basin, the Great Plains, and the Sweetgrass Hills. So lots of different ecosystems all living in one. So many different animals out here. So this place is completely different than Dinosaur Provincial Park and other places in the Badlands. There's multiple microclimates and habitats here. We will talk more about this in the coming days as we move on to our next location tomorrow. But something to know is just this enhances biodiversity. And the wind is really picking up. One final thing, I found the answer to those holes in the cliffs. Small eroded cavities in sandstone are called taphoni. These form from years of weathering and enlargement of weaker areas of the sandstone surface. So it's just simply erosion, which I thought it was, and it's just those weak points from everything. So now those birds are using them as their nesting cavities, and yeah, anyways, it's getting really windy. Let's go inside. Check this out. There's actually one of the cave paintings here, so maybe we'll see this later. All right, let's go inside now. So our first exhibit here is actually of some animals here, which I find really interesting. You see there's a golden eagle feather. I've never seen a golden eagle before, so that would definitely be a new bird to see one. There's a mule deer antler, bison skull. I don't think bison live here anymore. That's more of in the past. Pronghorns, which we need to see some of those. American robins, which we've seen tons of those. And badgers. I've never seen those before. That would be really cool to see. Also, if you look up, there's a golden eagle there. Really cool. As next, we have this here, which is this children's doll. I don't know when this is from. I think it says 1930s, but this is the actual doll of just this little girl here. I think that's really cool. This is literally a piece of some child's life over or almost 100 years ago. That's crazy. This exhibit here is on the bison. It shows some of the bones that they have here. It shows this is their femur, their jaw, lots of different bones. You can pause it and see here, different bones and that. We have just a picture of a bison. I think we all know what a bison looks like. It looks like they used basically every single part of the animal, which is good because they didn't want to waste the bison at all. They thought of them as sacred, and they were basically essential to the First Nation survival. And they used every part of the animal, including every bone, for something, which is really cool. And this final part here shows some of those tools that they actually used from the bison. They used their horns as like a cup, I think, or what does it actually say? As a container, yeah, to hold liquids and that, yeah. They use different things for different bones, different tools, different scrapers and stuff, which that's really cool. And finally up here is a cave painting of a bison. So maybe we see that later. I guess we know that's a bison. Next, they actually have some of the games. This is games of skill. This is for some of the Blackfoot culture. And these are actual things that children used to do, and they played with these. It's a pretty normal game. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, harder than it looks. Alright, let's keep going. Here we actually have a saddle that some of the first European settlers wore. On the horses wore, not them. They have some of their other gear in that here. Someone's gun used to be inside of that holster. And someone's feet used to be in those boots, which is kind of a weird thought, but anyway, let's keep going. Here we have some of the early Northwest Mounted Police. I'm sure you've all heard of the Canadian Mounties. This was kind of the first step towards that. And actually our next place that we're going has even more history on the Northwest Mounted Police, so it's going to be really cool to see. But this is really cool to see. This is actually a replica tunic and cap for the Northwest Mounted Police, and some of the other tools in that they used. Different spoons in that here. That's kind of cool. They have their gun up there and bullets and casings. Really interesting stuff. There's so much to explore here. We can't even show it all. But we got some directions from the park staff on how to get to the cave paintings. So we're going to check that out if the rain starts clearing up. If not, we're going to have to wait for tomorrow. But hopefully the rain clears up. Look at this view from the window, guys. This is crazy, honestly. You can see the mountains in Montana there. You see the storm just coming over the mountains, which earlier there was like a nice peak to them. Now it's all behind those clouds. That is amazing. See all the hoodoos in that? This is crazy, guys. This is out of this world. Alright, so that was really cool time in the visitor center, learning about the indigenous history here. And the weather's starting to clear up, so we might be able to do the cave paintings today. It looks like there is some more storms coming, so I don't know. And yes, I got another pin from the gift shop. I'll go put it on the hat, and I'll show you guys in a minute. Let's go back. What is this plant? It's got like this like thing coming out of it. It's like this. Like, what the heck? That's so cool. Alright, back at camp now. I have the new pin in my hat. So you can see that there. It looks like the entire campground just left while we were gone. We're like the only ones here except for that one tent over there. Oh wait, they're even packing up too. Okay, never mind. We're the only ones here. This is great. So we basically have the entire park to ourselves. There's still some other people on the other side, but at least this part is just for us, which is great. It's still raining a little bit and still quite windy. I don't know if you can even hear me because of the wind. I'm trying to speak louder. So we're just going to wait for the storm to pass. We're just going to stay here for like an hour until it kind of all just blows over. And then we're going to go for a hike to try and find some cave paintings. So I'll see you guys in, well, for you it would be like the next clip. But I'll see you guys in like an hour. All right, so the rain has stopped now. The wind has died down, so we're gonna go for that hike and find some cave paintings. It looks like basically everybody has left the campground, so we're basically gonna have the whole thing to ourselves tonight. So yeah, let's go find some cave paintings. All right, so it's about a 2-kilometer walk until we get to the cave paintings. So it's a pretty easy walk, especially in this nice cool weather. It's not hot like yesterday, so should be good. Hoodoo Trail. Surprisingly, this is the one with all the cave paintings. So let's go. On this trail, there are 15 different points of interest, you could say. Here's the first one. And in the trail guide, it says, Stop 1, a remarkable landscape. I won't read directly from it because, yeah, copyright stuff, I don't know. But basically, it's just talking about how the indigenous people here, the Blackfoot, the Cree, have used these lands as a sacred place for thousands of years. And it says that since the 1700s, this area has been recognized as Blackfoot territory. This place is actually recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of its cultural significance for the Blackfoot and the indigenous people. Let's go find the next spot. Check this out, there's like sandstone stairs carved everywhere. That's really cool. There's even more. Kind of steep. Ooh. It'd be getting pretty steep. It's stop 2. The wind is starting to pick up a little bit, so I'll make this fast. But this one is more focused on the river. I mean, makes sense. I mean, the river's right there. Can you see the river in the shot? But just look at this view. So this spot talks more about how the river, and it says that starting 20,000 years ago, the glaciers of the last ice age started to recede, and great volumes of melting water rushed into the valleys, carving out the intricate landscapes we see today. This is the Milk River, if I didn't say that already. It is part of the Missouri-Mississippi drainage system. So this river winds in and out of the Canadian border until eventually gets here and drains into the Mississippi River somewhere that way. I don't know. Anyway, let's keep going. Alright, guys, to point 3. I'm gonna make this one quick. The wind is getting really bad, so I put my hood up. This spot in particular is talking about the mountains back there, which are actually in Montana, funny enough, because the storms earlier, they're all moving that way. You can't really see them right now, but they're there and you can still see them. This says that the Blackfoot people have used them as a lookout point to observe the buffalo herds, or the bison herds, whatever you want to call them, but they are bison. And it is a powerful presence in the center of their world, and they've always been sacred to the Blackfoot people. It also says that young men climb the hills to undertake a vision quest, an important ritual fast resulting in dreams of the spirit world. So, that's pretty cool. They are now known as the Sweetgrass Hills. I think you heard me talk about them earlier at the visitor center. They actually formed about 48 million years ago when magma inside the earth forced its way upwards and then cooled into huge domes of igneous rock. And then after millions of years of erosion, it left them as the isolated hills above the flat plain. Pretty cool. Alright, I'm gonna get out of this wind. Marker 4. This talks about how the Blackfoot people actually would never camp out along the Hoodoos, as if you remember yesterday when we went and explored the other Hoodoos over there, they thought of them as super sacred, which means they are pretty cool. And they believed that there were spirits within them. They would always camp down along the valley, but they would use locations like this as a vantage point to look out for wildlife that they would use for prey items like deer or bison. Many archaeological finds have been found in this park dating from around 1000 BC to only about 100 years ago. So yeah, let's keep going. Marker number 5. This one talks about the berries. So I'll make this one fast because it's not as significant, but it's still just as important. The Blackfoot would often stop and pick berries on their seasonal movements. There was lots of berries here, such as chokecherries and Saskatoon berries, which we've seen many of those. Along the river, the conditions are moist and cool, perfect for lots of birds, such as rufous-sided towhees and the brown thrasher. I've never seen either of those, so if I spot them, that's definitely a new bird. So lots of stuff is attracted here, lots of growth, lots of biodiversity. Let's keep going. So, site number 6, this is once again talking about the river, which we are right up to the river now. You can see some swallows in the background. I think these are bank swallows, if I'm not mistaken. Just catching some of the updrifts. Please don't poop on me. But this is just talking about how, once again, these are very sacred waters, and that the Blackfoot people really thought of the water animals as sacred. So that's creatures like the river otter, the beaver, or the muskrat. So that's really cool. There's like a yellow bird here. I don't know if I've seen this one before. Let's see if this one comes up. Oh wait, it's right here. It's right there. Whoa, wait, what is that? It's right there. It's like a warbler or something. Can't get on video. Okay, I think I'll have to stop the video and I'll talk about it after. Alright, site 7, and we have finally made it to our first cave paintings. So these aren't actually really called cave paintings since, well, they're not in a cave, they're up here on this cliff. So it is important to note that there are 2 different types of markings on the cliffs here. One is pictographs, which are painted on using berries and crushed up iron ore and different materials, so it stays on the cliff. But the other one is petroglyphs, which is what we see here, where it's actually carved into the rock using bones or metal tools after the Europeans arrived. It is actually difficult to determine how old this rock art is, but the methods used to make it can give us some clues. So newer rock art usually depicts interactions between the indigenous peoples and Europeans and horses and different stuff that they brought over. These ones do not. These are actually among the oldest images in the entire park, aging from around 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. This panel may represent a group of men and women partaking in a ceremony, I'm not sure of what kind. And these are very fragile and cannot be touched, that's why they're behind a barricade. And you can actually face very heavy fines for touching them. So I will not be doing that. And there's actually camera monitoring around here. And these cameras are pretty well hidden unless it's just that stick with a thing on it. Yeah, they're not that well hidden. Never mind. But they are there and they're facing the rock art where they're supposed to be. So really cool. Let's keep going because there's even more crazy rock art waiting for us to see. Site number 8 is again more rock art. I can't even stress how impressive this is, guys. This isn't going to show up on camera very well, but I will show you guys pictures of it and I will talk about it here. So these pictures here show several grizzly bear paws and several bison, including a human figure who is likely hunting the bison. The bison and the bear are both sacred animals, and these petroglyphs were perhaps carved as part of a ceremony. This park is an important place for the Blackfoot people who actually come here to view the rock art as the work of the spirit world. The hoodoos and carvings fill people with reverence and even fear. And many Blackfoot people come here to seek spiritual guidance and to determine their fate by interpreting the rock art. That is really cool. That is really cool, guys. Okay, let's keep going. There's more cave paintings waiting for us, or I should be calling it rock art, but there is more waiting for us. Let's go. Does anybody else see what I see there? This is site number 9, and let me tell you, I mean, there's no cave paintings here, but this is easily my favorite spot thus far. Look at this. This is insane. I'm literally like above the water. Don't come too close, but this is insane. Look at this. You have an entire view of the park. The river winds through the entire valley. And this river has shaped this whole valley. So it might look like a small river now, but this once was this entire valley. There's also a deer over there. So I'm gonna read for spot 9. This one is actually focused on those 2 cottonwood trees out there. Those 2 cottonwood trees. And these are threatened along many prairie rivers due to the reduction of the river flows and fewer spring floods. So probably just less snow and less water because droughts and whatnot, really hot. But these trees actually serve as nesting sites for prairie falcons, which might have been what I saw last night. So I don't know. Golden eagles and ferruginous hawks. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that, but they use the trees and these steep cliffs as their nesting sites, which is absolutely incredible. Thousands of cliff swallows also use these cliffs as nests. And the First Nations people also use these cliffs to, well, run the bison over them and something known as buffalo jumps. You probably have heard of those. So cliffs such as those ones across the valley there, you can head over to those. Those steep cliffs, they would just run herds of bison off and they would use them. They wouldn't kill all the bison. They would only take a small group of them. They only took what they needed, and then they used every part of the animal. And we even saw all those tools earlier in the video back at the visitor center. This is definitely one of my favorite spots. So I don't know if I want to leave this, but we gotta keep moving. So let's get going. Welcome to site number 10. Wait, I'm over here. Hi, I had to sit for this one. My legs are getting tired. The raining has stopped. I see that it's raining again. Great. But it was super windy, so I had to put my hood back up. Out on this valley, this is site number 10, obviously, and it says across the river, Davis Coulee joins the Milk River Valley, which I think it's that valley right there, which is joined between those hills. So the word coulee comes from the French couler, which means to flow. And on the prairies, it generally refers to a narrow, steep wall ravine that joins a river valley. So those are coulees there. So the coulees here actually support a lot of biodiversity, as they are ecological overlap between the flat plains above and then the life in the valleys below. So coulees were beneficial to the First Nations people, as were most things in this valley. They made excellent traveling routes where hunters and war parties could remain concealed for long distances. So this is another amazing view. We're gonna keep going. Another sandstone stairway. Put a rail in this time. That's nice and helpful. Oof. Okay, so this is site number 11. This is actually talking about pack rats and artifacts. So those cliffs there actually show inside the crevices, there's a bunch of mud stuffed in there. Those are made from pack rats, which are actually different from normal rats, which Alberta is famous for not actually having rats, but we have pack rats apparently.
I would have thought those were swallow nests, but this makes it sound otherwise. I think a whole bunch of swallows just flew past, which is kind of cool. But apparently they are wood rats, and they pack dung, bones, wood, any sort of bright or shiny objects they find to make their nests. And apparently wood rats sometimes hide artifacts from the indigenous people in their dens or burrows. And a lot of the First Nations people would come in here to build their den in the caves and crevices here, hoping that that would give them an easier or more welcoming entrance into the spirit world and the afterlife. Unfortunately, all but one of these sites was looted prior to the establishment of the park in 1957. So that's kind of sad. Anyway, I think the next one is a really cool site. So let's go over there. So these cliffs here actually have a number of cave paintings on them. So apparently there is a sun and multiple horses here. And these are actual rock paintings or pictographs made using red ochre pigment made from crushed iron ore mixed with animal fat and water. They painted what appears to be a hunting scene. Several horses, bison, and human figures are shown, including a sun, which is probably the most prominent figure here. The depiction of horses on the scene dates it to sometime after their arrival on the Great Plains, and they arrived in Alberta in approximately 1730, so it's probably from the mid-1700s. Anyway, the weather is starting to get kind of bad, so we gotta keep going fast. So this was really cool, let's go. So we're actually on the trail now to the battle scene pictograph, which is probably one of the most prominent and famous paintings in this entire park. On this trail, there are dozens of different paintings here. There's some faint ones here, including some of this next rock here, which I'll show you guys right here. So on the end of this trail is the battle scene. I'm very excited to see this. Let's go. This is site number 13. It is so sacred and so fragile, and people have actually come and vandalized it by writing their names in the cliffs. I don't understand why. I mean, like, I don't know why people can't have any respect, but that's not the point. But it's just sad that they actually have to go and put a cage around it to protect it. Anyway, this is, I'll read off the sign here. These petroglyphs, remember the petroglyphs are the actual drawings carved into the rock. So these petroglyphs make up the most extensive and complex rock art scene found in the entire park. Over 250 characters are depicted in the most complex composition of any Northwestern Plains rock art scene, which just shows how important this was to the people. Because, I mean, if they didn't care about it, why would they make it super elaborate and extreme? So it includes 115 warriors, some of which are carrying bows or guns, 17 horses, some pulling travois, and 44 guns. A stream of bullets issues from the muzzle of nearly every single gun, hence why this is known as the battle scene. The scene may represent an actual battle described by I'm not going to try to pronounce this word, I would mispronounce it, I just don't want to be disrespectful, so I'll write it here on screen. But this is a South Pagan or Blackfeet elder named Bird Rattle. His picture is here. He directly linked the rock art of writing on stone to the retreat up the hill battle, fought somewhere along the Milk River, which is the river here, in 1866. It was one of the most decisive of this group's victories, and they defeated a combined war party of Gros Ventre, which is Crow and Plains Cree, who lost more than 300 warriors, which is insane. Bird Rattle described this battle during a visit he made to writing on stone in 1924. The drawing was likely carved in the late 1800s. The visibility of the details in these petroglyphs can vary with light conditions and the time of the day and time of year, obviously, because the different mountain lighting, they are very faint in the rock. But right now, we actually have a very good view of them. This is incredible. This is probably one of my favorite things of this entire trip thus far. So this is absolutely incredible. Such a shame that these people have come and vandalized such a sacred and incredible piece of history. Anyways, we are almost done with this hike. So the weather is actually starting to clear up, luckily, so that's nice. Anyway, we're gonna keep going. So guys, there's actually a couple of deer over there. I think there's at least 2, but there might be 3. This is really cool. So I think that's 4 or 5 different deer that we've seen just in this valley, this one hike, which is incredible to see the biodiversity of this region. So much life here. So many deer, so many birds, so many other animals here that we don't even get to see right now just because either they're so rare or we just can't cover the entire park right now. This is still incredible to see nonetheless, these beautiful animals. We should let them be. I'll keep going. I just like fell. Okay. Are you number? Well, I stopped number 1. No, it's 14. There's the forest behind this flower, which is really pretty. And look at this. Anyway, that's getting sidetracked. I made the mistake of running up here. Let's just take a second to appreciate this view. So this spot doesn't have anything particular. It's just showing the landscape in general. Cliffs such as the one over there behind those houses there, those nice steep cliffs we talked about them before, were used for hunting bison. They would drive them off the cliffs in small herds. We talked about how the First Nations used those bison back at the visitor center this morning, if you all remember. They used their hides to make thick robes and teepees. And these prairies provide home to many other animals that also aided in the First Nations way of life. It also talks about how the prairie grasses here are especially adapted to survive in the harsh, semi-arid environments here in the Badlands. It can reach negative 40 degrees Celsius in the winter, which is equal to negative 40 Fahrenheit. And in the winter, it can get up to plus 40 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit for you Americans watching, sorry. But despite these extremes, the grasslands are home to many different species of animals, birds, and plants. And in the spring and summer, western meadowlarks like to spend the time in the flowers here, like ones we have here, and other ones that are scattered throughout the park. So this is another really cool viewpoint over the whole valley. Absolutely stunning. Let's go visit the very final stop on this hike, and then we'll go back to camp and have some dinner. It's starting to get really windy up here, so I might have to put my hood back up. Part of the reason I wanted to do this whole series, like I said in the very beginning, I wanted to show how much life is out here. And I think this just proves my point very much. Many people think that this is just a dry, barren desert wasteland in the middle of literally nowhere. But they're completely wrong. There is so much here. And everything we've learned today just shows that.
The next thing's up this way, so go up these stairs. Let's see what's up here. Check this out, there's a waxwing right here. Very beautiful bird, but is one that I have seen before. So, not a new bird. Nonetheless, it's a really cool bird to see here in the Badlands.
We've made it to stop 15. This is the final destination of this hike. And this is absolutely incredible. The view from up here is amazing. There is so much history from this area. And I am extremely appreciative that I was able to come here and do this hike. This is by far the most thrilling hike of my life, no doubt. There is so much history here, both natural and human history. It's just incredible. So a little bit more about this spot right here. So right across the valley here lies Police Coulee, which is, well, the coulee's right there. And only 9 kilometers past this is the Montana-Alberta border. So it's not that far. We probably walked more than that today, which is that's crazy. So the habitats within the coulee provide shelter for northern leopard frogs, endangered butterflies, and shelter for songbirds such as the yellow-breasted chat, all of which are uncommon here in Alberta. police coulee also contains more rock art, archaeological sites, and other very important historical sites, making this coulee a significant feature of this park. Back in the 1870s, European traders had established themselves throughout much of Blackfoot territory, which is what we stand on now. The indigenous peoples exchanged furs for knives, pots, and other useful items. This was known as the fur trade. I'm sure most of us have heard of that. Some traders also sold the First Nations a deadly product, rot gut whiskey. Police coulee became known as a cross-border route for whiskey smugglers, which is kind of interesting. Not good, but it's interesting. And so the Northwest Mounted Police marched west in 1874 to stop the whiskey trade and to establish Canadian sovereignty in the West. They eventually established an outpost here in 1877, and a new era in the history of writing on stone / Áísínai'pi had begun. I'm going to start referring to it by both names, just out of respect for the first people who were here, as if that's what they called the land. And the name Áísínai'pi actually means is written in or is drawn in the Blackfoot language. It's not exactly that, but it's roughly something like that. And so that house down there, if I'm not mistaken, is actually the original mounted police fort from 1887, which is absolutely incredible. That's still standing. And this weather is getting really bad. You can see the mist and the clouds rolling in through the valley. This is an absolutely beautiful sight. We're gonna go back. My phone is basically dead, so I'm gonna have to charge it up, and then we'll film some stuff inside. I think we're having steak tonight, so that's exciting. Let's go. Alright, let's get back. Let's get going again. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'll see you back. Look up there, guys. Someone's getting shelter from the storm. Someone's smart. Oh, there's another one right there. I think these are those two that we saw earlier, because we're walking back and the art that we saw them at is just back there. So this is almost definitely those two deer that we saw back then. Again, really cool animals.
All right, so we got back from our walk a couple hours ago. That was, to be honest, the best hike of my life, and I've done a lot of hikes, so I'm still kind of in shock over the whole thing. And yes, that was just a bunch of deer that just ran through our campsite. I mean, we're camping, that's what you get. We all came back, we were all soaking wet from the rain, obviously. We got dried off, we made a fire, and we made steak for supper, which was delicious. And yes, there was carrots and potatoes underneath them too, but this is a giant steak, so it covered the whole plate. Those deer are still just over there. Like, it's just like walking down the street over there. That's crazy. It's just over there.
Oh, they're coming back.
It's just like over there. And you see it. It's like coming back. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh wait, there's more right here. Right there. See? The deer. Oh, and the baby. That's crazy. Yeah, there it is. Anyways, yeah, some people showed up while we were gone for our hike, so we have neighbors now. I mean, for better or for worse. These deer are crazy. My brothers are going crazy. So now that we're done supper, we're going to make some s'mores for dessert. So, s'more time! Alright, I'm going to let you guys in on a little bit of a secret now. So, what we do with our marshmallows, and we like to call them Smoreos,
You pull it off.
Apparently not.
Oh my god. Oh, yeah. Or half a Smoreo. We use Oreos to make s'mores. I don't even know you can see that, but it's really good. I encourage you guys to try it out too. So it's not a secret anymore, but yeah. Another camping tip from me. Smoreo pole part 2. There we go. Yeah, you're better than him, Mom.
Are they not good enough?
Nope. Sorry, watermelon guy. Oh yeah, guys, shout out to my cameraman, also my brother. What's your handle again? Watermelon Hockey 72. Go subscribe to him. He's got to get something from being my cameraman all day. So yeah, thank you. Also, S'moreos, go try it. Good. Oh, that was as good as I wanted to be. So I was gonna do some stargazing again tonight, but there's still a lot of clouds from earlier when it was raining. It did clear up for when we had our fire and that, but there's some clouds moving in from the north now and a whole bunch that had just passed. So a little bit of clear sky. So I'm just gonna point out a couple notable constellations to you guys because there isn't really anything else to do. The moon is still behind clouds. So right up here, there's the Big Dipper, which is very common asterism. Not actually a constellation, it's part of the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear. That's a pretty well-known one there. Up there is Cassiopeia, which just looks like a W, because W, I don't know. And straight above, just like a dinosaur provincial park, is the Summer Triangle, made up of Cygnus, Lyra, and Aquila. That's the swan, the harp, and the eagle. So lots of cool stuff. Summer Triangle is basically just straight ahead, so you can go see that for yourself. So there's not really much else to do with stargazing, but I also want to tell you guys that that little yellow bird that we saw on the trail earlier, I haven't been able to identify it, so I think it's safe to say that we can check off seeing a new bird that I haven't seen. Also, that thing I kept saying was like a falcon or something that was flying around. It was just had the pointed wings and a streamlined body like a falcon. I think it was like a nighthawk or whatever those little birds are. I'll put a picture here in the text with what it actually is, or if I'm correct, then yay. But it's that. I couldn't get a picture of it or video or anything, but I know that's what it was. I could see the white band on its wing, so that. So today we have to check off the cave paintings, which I'm still in awe over that hike. This will forever be like a core memory of mine. It's amazing. This is the camera did not do justice of just how amazing that hike was. So just know it's so much more amazing in person. So please come here if you have the chance. Also, I should tell you guys that sound of me eating that Smoreo was completely real. I did watch the video back for that, and that's hilarious. I'm going to use that as my sound effect whenever I eat stuff now. That's funny. But yeah, we can check off the cave paintings. We did the Hoodoos the other day, and we can check off seeing a new bird and the visitor center. So we've done everything I wanted to do here. So tomorrow we go to a new park and with new things to explore. So we're all super tired after that super long hike. It was almost 3 hours we were gone. So go to a new park tomorrow, new things to explore, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Good.